It's Schaefer time on Long Island as the top overall pick in the 2025 draft has signed his entry-level deal with the Islanders. We'll talk about what that means, both short-term and long-term for the team and the player. All that and more next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
You're Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Wednesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for almost 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the Rangers from 1972 to the modern era. So glad you could join us today to talk a little Islanders hockey, and we've got a lot to get to. The Islanders signing Matthew Schaefer to his entry-level deal. That happening earlier this week. And boy, I'll tell you, I love the way they did it. And we'll talk about the impact it'll have on the Islanders. Some more trade rumors out there, this time about Adam Pelech. And one list has the Islanders having a player with one of the 10 worst contracts in the NHL. We're going to talk a little bit about that in as well. We got to start with Schaefer time. The New York Islanders and Matthew Schaefer agree to a 3-year entry-level contract. He announced the signing. I got to say, I love the way this was done. First of all, Schaefer threw out the first pitch at a Mets game, which I thought was great. And again, small differences, but big differences, right? Under Lou Lamoriello, public relations, the ability of players to make these kind of appearances and put things up on social media, limited or non-existent. We had Matthew Schaefer not only throwing out the first pitch, but then we saw him on social media trying to pronounce the names of difficult to pronounce for people who aren't from Long Island towns, Nessaquag and Hauppauge and Lake Ronkonkoma and all of that. Got to give credit to the kid for keeping for keeping his sense of humor, for going through with it. Obviously, it is not easy for people who are not familiar with the area. And I like that. But what I absolutely loved to see was that he signed the contract with 20 kids who had also lost a parent. And for those of you who may not know, Schaefer's mom passed away when he was 16, so a year and a half ago. And so the team invited 20 kids who had lost people who were significant in their lives and had them help him with the actual signing of the contract. Broadcast, put that out on social media. It was touching. It was warm. It was smart. And I have to say this, for a 17-year-old kid, Matthew Schaefer is in many ways mature, well beyond his years. I love the way he handled it, the way he spoke to the kids, told them, hey, I can relate to what you've been through. If you have any questions, just ask me. And, it was heartwarming and touching and just very well done. So whether it was the Islanders PR department, Matthew Darsh, Matthew Schaefer, I don't know where the idea originated. All I know is it was a great idea. It was well executed. It was touching. It was moving. I liked it very, very much. It was classy. And that is something that I really love to see from any sports organization. So kudos to the Islanders, to Matthew Schaefer, to whoever decided to do this and whoever helped execute it, because it was really well done. But now let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Everydayers, you'll remember we've talked several times on the show that I felt 1 year maybe of college hockey might be the best route for Matthew Schaefer to take in his development. With the signing of this entry-level deal, that's off the table. He is no longer eligible to play college hockey this year. He is not eligible to play in in the AHL, because of his age. He'll be 18 the first week in September. So right now, there's exactly two choices. He's either going to play in the NHL or he's going back to Erie. And obviously there's that middle ground. And here's how it works for those of you who may not know. Matthew Schaefer can play 9 games or fewer in the NHL this year. And if the Islanders then determine, hey, he needs more work, he's not ready for the full 82-game grind of an NHL schedule. He needs to, get stronger or work on this aspect of his game, whatever that may be, before we think he can be out there on the ice. They could send him back down to Erie, and it will not cost them a year off his ELC, the entry-level contract. If he plays more than 9 games, they could still send him back to Erie, but it would count as 1 year of his 3-year entry-level contract. So obviously, the best thing from an Islanders perspective is to see whether or not after 9 games he can compete and be good enough in the NHL to stick with the big club this year. If he's not ready, you send him back to juniors. You don't want to burn a year of this ELC because he played 11 games in the NHL. That is a worst case scenario. Again, from my personal perspective, I don't worry so much about whether or not he's ready this year. This team this year is, again, probably in the fight for one of those last playoff spots. Either they're going to make the playoffs by a hair or miss the playoffs by a hair. Now, again, injuries could change that. Trades could change that. But on paper, as of right now, the ceiling for the Islanders remains a fringe playoff team. If Matthew Schaefer is not ready, I'd rather send him back to Erie, let him play 28, 30 minutes a game on the first power play, on the top PK unit. Let him get experience. To me, the key with Matthew Schaefer and with a lot of other aspects of this Islanders team is not rushing him or doing what will look good or it's all about the long-term impact of getting Matthew Schaefer to realize his and maximize his potential. So if he plays 9 games and he doesn't seem ready, send him back to Erie, let him get the work in there. And if he comes back next year, so be it. Depending on how Erie does, maybe he joins the team late in the season or in the playoffs if Erie is eliminated early. Obviously, if Schaefer is playing there, you hope that doesn't happen, that he has enough of an impact to prevent them from missing the playoffs or having an early exit. But these are now the choices. That's locked in. And as far as I'm concerned, it's all good. Let this kid grow, develop, and sizzle. And here's where Matthew Darche and Patrick Waugh and Matt Martin and all the rest of the front office and the coaching staff have to make a decision. And the decision is what maximizes the ceiling of the development of Matthew Schaefer. And if it means sending him back to junior, send him back. If he's not ready, he wants to be ready. I love the hunger. I love the desire. I love the attitude that he's bringing, and I love the maturity that he's showing. But ultimately, the organization has to do what's best for the long term. And, Matthew Darsh talked about building a consistent contender, a team that will win, for 8, 9, 10 years and be competitive and be considered a team that has a chance to win, a realistic chance to win a Stanley Cup, a la the Lightning, the Panthers, the Stars, the Avalanche, the Oilers. Those are the teams that have been contenders for years and years and years, and every year you kind of pencil them in. So, to me, this year, I want to win, obviously, but the more important thing is taking the steps necessary with Schaefer, with the roster in general, to getting this team to the point where they become that consistent cup contender as quickly and as best possible. And hopefully it's something we will see and move toward over time. So exciting times. Matthew Schaefer officially now a member of the New York Islanders organization. And we will keep you updated on his progress and everything that's going on with him as the offseason and the preseason and training camp and all of that progresses. But I like the way the Islanders handled this, and let's hope they continue and Schaefer continues to do things the right way. We have got a lot more to discuss on today's show. Some rumors out there on Adam Pelech being a possible trade candidate. We'll talk about that, why I don't think they're red-hot rumors. Plus, do the Islanders have one of the worst contracts in the league? We'll talk about that and who it is. All of that and more next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and even makes regular season games feel like must-watch events. And if you're new to FanDuel, this is a great time to join. New customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Again, that's $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins for new customers to FanDuel. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Yeah, this is a quiet time in the NHL calendar. And look, there's always stuff to talk about here on Locked On Islanders, but you always see these reports this time of year. And, sometimes, like with the Ilya Sorokin rumors that we discussed on Monday's show, I don't think there's anything behind them other than the possibility that the Oilers made an inquiry. Hey, what would it take to get Ilya Sorokin? But I don't think anything like that is going to happen. And then other times there are trade rumors put out there that may make more sense than the Sorokin rumors. And a couple of different sources have said that it may be time to trade Adam Pelech from the New York Islanders. Why? And we've talked about this. Everydayers know we've talked about the depth that this organization suddenly has. And to tie it in, it may depend on Matthew Schaefer and whether or not he's ready. Because if Schaefer is on the NHL roster, the left side of the defense core would be Alexander Romanov, Adam Pelech. And then you have either Schaefer or possibly, you also have George. So you have Matthew Schaefer and Isaiah George, both of them available to fill in on that left side. George, looked pretty good early, struggled a little bit as time went on last year, but more experience, one of those two guys could be ready. And if Schaefer does make the team and gets beyond the 9 games that we talked about, it might make sense to try to move Adam Pelech. You're not moving Romanov. He just signed this long-term deal. He's not going anywhere. Pelech would be the logical guy on the left side to move. He has a 16-team no-trade clause, so there's still 15 other teams that you can move him to. And he still has, including this year, 4 years left on his contract. Now, that would free up, if you could pull it off, $5.75 million in cap space. The reason I don't think a deal like this is at all going to happen right away. Number one, the Islanders don't know whether or not either Isaiah George or Matthew Schaefer are ready for prime time this year, ready to play significant NHL minutes. And if they're not, you can't really afford to trade Adam Pelech. So that means you're not likely to see something happening in the short term, but over the course of the season, let's say you get to American Thanksgiving in, late November. Schaefer has already established himself as an everyday player. Isaiah George is in Bridgeport, and he looks ready to make that move, or maybe he gets called up for 5 or 6 games due to an injury, and he proves he's NHL ready. Then you might be looking to say, I can get some assets, whether it's draft picks, younger players who could step in right away on the left side, prospects who are maybe, like Cal Ritchie, on the cusp of being ready for the NHL. All of that could very well make sense. And we'll see how Matthew Darche handles it. Pelech is 30. The longer you wait on this, I think his value will more likely go down than go up. If Romanov takes over as the first pair left shot defenseman, the best you're going to have from Pelech is second pair kind of a guy. And if you have George and you have Schaefer coming up, there's reasons why you might want to pull the trigger. Now, the other reason I think you wait, and again, this may mean even waiting as late as the trade deadline or maybe holding off altogether. Can Adam Pelech mentor Matthew Schaefer? And, if they develop that kind of a relationship, if Schaefer is on the team and Pelech is helping him, maybe you don't want to move the mentor because, again, the more important thing is not winning now. It's maximizing your first overall pick in the draft, Schaefer. So if Pelech is helping Schaefer, hold on to him. These articles didn't say anything was imminent. They were more kind of saying it would make sense that if the Islanders have too many defensemen, Adam Pelech is the guy to move. Ryan Pulock has a full no-trade clause. You can't move him. If Isaiah George and Matthew Schaefer are ready, you have a glut of players on the left side. You also have an extra player or two on the right side. It logically makes sense, but there are reasons to wait. So while I don't think anything will happen this offseason unless another NHL-ready player who can play left defenseman comes back in the deal, it's something to sort of keep your eye on down the road, because it would make sense a few months from now at the trade deadline or even next offseason if that's the direction Matthew Darche needs to go. And again, if this is, let's say, a 3-year rebuild, Pelech starts to get to be 33, 34 when that rebuild starts to bear fruit. Maybe it makes sense. Maybe it makes sense at that point to, maximize the return, get something for him while he still has value, and go from there. We'll see. It's out there. Again, I don't think that there's anything that's going to happen in the short run, but this is what's being reported, and this is why I think there is some logic to it, even if I don't think anything is going to happen right away. And again, Adam Pelech, I like him. He's been a great Islander over the course of his career. Missed 22 games due to injury, did not score a goal last year, but hopefully can stay healthy and bounce back and give the Islanders some solid play up until the time, if they do decide to trade him, So we have got more to get to on today's show. The rankings of the worst contracts in the league. The Athletic put out their ranking, and an Islander was on it. We're going to talk about that. Plus, for our Islanders' birthday of the day, a defensive center who was with the New York Islanders in the very late 80s and very early 90s. Let's see if you can guess who this Manchester, New Hampshire native is. All that and more next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. So we are back, and 10 worst contracts. The Athletic puts out their list. They do that, every year, and the Islanders had a player on it, unfortunately. And it was the 7th worst contract, again, according to The Athletic. I'm not saying I agree wholeheartedly, but Ryan Pulock, who basically has a $6.2 million AAV, according to The Athletic and their analytics, his market value is closer to $2.9 million. And, that's a big dip. And basically they're saying, the last 2 or 3 years, he has struggled, did not contribute a lot offensively, did not contribute a lot defensively. He's also 30. The decline is probably only going to get worse. He used to be, according to The Athletic, a shutdown defenseman, either a number 2 or a number 3. Now he's probably a low-end 4 at best, is what they're saying on a good team. So they're citing the gap between how much he's getting paid and basically what he's producing on the ice. And last year, he missed 8 games. So he played 74 games, 5 goals, 23 points. He was a +2. So again, I don't think it's that the contract is that awful. I certainly don't like the fact that as of right now, he still has a full no trade clause, which prevents you from moving him until that becomes the modified 16-team no trade clause, modified no trade clause, which won't happen for a little while longer. I mean, that will change after the 2026-2027 season. Then it becomes the modified no trade clause. And he is essentially on the roster. He doesn't become a UFA until 2030. So again, look, can players waive their no trade clauses? Yeah, but I don't think he wants to go anywhere. And I don't think he is going anywhere. But I would argue that the contract is not ideal given the reduction in consistency of Pulock's play, but I don't think it is so bad that it's one of the worst 10 contracts in the league. I just want to see him return to form and stay healthy. Whether he's capable of doing that at this stage in his career remains to be seen. Again, the Islanders' 2 runs to the conference final in 2020 and 2021, it doesn't happen without Adam Pelech and Ryan Pulock. It doesn't happen. They were the foundation of that defense. Where they are now, 5 years later, 4 years later, they're not at that same elite level. Are their bodies kind of breaking down a little bit? Maybe. But with Ryan Pulock, there's not a lot you could do at this point, except hope he bounces back and improves. Again, I think it's not a great contract. I don't necessarily agree that it's one of the 10 worst in the league. I am not a big analytics person. I think analytics can show me some things that I may not be able to see, or it can break a tie between, what's the value of this player versus this player. They both had, one had 45 points, the other had 43 points. Who's a better player? I think analytics can kind of differentiate, but at the same time, I don't trust analytics when they tell me what I see with my eyes for 82 games isn't correct. I know what I see. And so, it can temper things a little bit, but I am not going to put it on a pedestal and say it's gospel. Let's put it that way. All right. Time for our Islanders birthday of the day. And we are a day early here, but Thursday will be the 62nd birthday of former Islanders center UB McDonough, the Manchester, New Hampshire native, 5'9", 180 pounds, went to St. Anselm College for 3 years, made his NHL debut in 1988-89 with the Kings, joined the Islanders during the 89-90 season, stayed on the island through the 91-92 year, was a member of the 92-93 San Jose Sharks, and then finished his hockey career in the IHL and the AHL. McDonough only played 195 career NHL games, 40 goals, 66 points, 67 penalty minutes. He was in 5 playoff games with the Islanders, all in 1990, and he did score a goal and had 4 penalty minutes. McDonough, more of a bottom 6 forward, but he certainly had his moments with the Islanders. One of his better games, January 27th, 1990, Islanders hosting the Penguins at the Nassau Coliseum. Tom Barrasso, the starting goalie for Pittsburgh. Mark Fitzpatrick, the goalie for your New York Islanders. And the Islanders open up the scoring. UB McDonough and Don Maloney assisting Brad Lauer just 18 seconds into the game. That made it 1-0 in favor of the Islanders. In the second period, UB McDonough, our Islanders' birthday of the day, scores a shorthanded goal with Mark Fitzpatrick off for interference. Well, obviously, somebody had to serve the penalty, but Fitzpatrick in the box for interference. McDonough from Gary Nyland and Don Maloney. That made it the score 4-1 Islanders. And then midway through the second, Don Maloney sets up McDonough again, and he scores his 12th goal of the year. The Islanders go on to blow out the Penguins by a score of 9-3, despite being outshot 41-34. Mark Fitzpatrick with 38 saves. But for UB McDonough, our Islanders' birthday of the day, 2 goals. He had 3 points on the game. He was a +3. He had, in addition to that, 4 penalty minutes, and he scored on both of his shots. He scored the game-winning goal as well. So UB McDonough is our Islanders' birthday of the day. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. There is no off season. We're bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter most with the local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss in a future episode, email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You could follow the show on X at Locked On Isles. You could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders throughout this very busy off season. And it's always great to talk a little Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. We will be back on Friday with more of the latest Islanders news, notes, and happenings. Plus, we'll do some mailbag questions if we get a few. So please send them in if you are so inclined. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And, of course, let's go Islanders.